I don't think I've ever been more wrong on a story. I thought we were heading for Mike McCarthy back, but as the story evolved through the weekend and into this morning, apparently he decided he will not return as head coach in 2025. Contract with the Cowboys expired last Wednesday. The team had an exclusive negotiating window with Coach until tomorrow night. The sides have not had any negotiations regarding a new deal, sources told Adam Schefter on Monday. There's another report that suggests maybe they did talk or there was a feeling out process. NFL.com says the years on a new deal was the main significant issue. So that's kind of what we're working on here. I guess my reaction is I'm hopeful, but I can't. I'm not excited. I'm not optimistic. I'm just hopeful that they can stumble upon a coach that has the right answers and the right combination of traits. But after so many years, it's difficult to imagine that even if that coach had all the right traits, he would be put in a situation where those could manifest. So, I'm not sure what to make of this. And then you look at the roster and the cap situation. I don't know. Maybe 2014 to 2023 was the golden era for Cowboys football, like making the playoffs. And now we're heading for, what can be a really tough place to compete with the Dak Prescott contract and all the dead money there. And, Zach Martin moving along in retirement. It just doesn't seem like there's much to get excited about right now with this Cowboys franchise. And that's a tough place to be. I felt like for the previous 10 years, we at least had some hope. I don't know where to find that right now, guys. So that's kind of where I'm at with this Cowboys team.
No, I get it. I mean, I am thankful that the ultimate decision that they made, the way they got here was foolish because you should have they're not decisive at all.
Yeah.
In anything they do.
Yeah.
So, and then now they had this exclusive window to negotiate with Mike McCarthy, and now they've exclusively boxed themselves out of all the other studs that remain because they don't actually want a stud. They want to go just get a guy that they're just comfortable potentially making the playoffs with, and that they can undermine at every turn. And so there's no guarantee it gets better, but we knew what the ceiling was for McCarthy, and I'm so thankful that we're going to see a new offense. Hopefully it's not the Kellen Moore thing, and now we're just doing the exact same recycling. But I'm excited for new, man. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, Kellen Moore wouldn't surprise me at all. There's Pelissero up there saying McCarthy will not return. Sides could not agree on length of contract. So there's going to be a lot of reports. And, I don't know if we'll ever get a full-on, objective truth on exactly what happened. But I think what the Cowboys are looking at is this next year is going to be even worse than last year. We want a coach that's willing to ride this thing out. And then maybe hire a new guy in 2026, when we can maybe spend some money. Maybe by that point we've had a couple of, good draft classes that have come around, and, we'll be able to give a head coach a fresh slate and a chance on making a good impression. And if I'm Mike McCarthy in that spot, I don't want to come back next year for a team that's even worse. So I guess that's my read on the how and the why and the when of this situation. But the Franklin Frankel injury attorney text line is open for you. It's open for interpretation.
Yeah, I think Mike McCarthy loved his players. I don't think Mike McCarthy loved the front office.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the front office really loved Mike McCarthy, and I think that's why we're at where we're at right now. I think Mike appreciates the fact that his guys played hard for him. I think he appreciates the coaches that worked with him. I think he got along great with Mike Zimmer. I think that was something, you kind of, you always worry about with new coaches coming in and the coaches they brought. I think he really appreciates that opportunity to work. This front office is difficult, though. It's very, very difficult for the way that it operates. With and Chief talked about it perfectly with the decisions and how quickly you come to decisions and how decisive you are on decisions. And, are you in a situation where, you're kind of talking in circles and those kinds of things. And that just kind of, I can understand why, Mike McCarthy, Brad Sham and Zach and I think and maybe Chief, I don't know if it was you in the pregame show, but Brad Sham, we were talking about, does Mike McCarthy, does he actually even want to be here? Mm-hmm. I think we got our answer today.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe over the weekend, to that point, maybe he'd heard that in Chicago and New Orleans, their interviews haven't gone great, and maybe those teams are starting to think we could really use a veteran with a track record of winning in multiple places instead of rolling the dice on an unknown.
Yeah.
And if I'm Mike McCarthy and I hear that, along with, Jerry, Hyman, and Hahn about giving me a 4 or a 5 year deal, suddenly those opportunities can look a lot more promising. I know there's a poll out today of like former coaches looking at the Cowboys as one of the best opportunities out there.
Yeah.
But if you've been here for 5 years and you can see how the sausage is made, to borrow a quote from Wolchuk there during crosstalk, and now there's a grass is greener opportunity out there for you, either with a young quarterback with potential and a front office with an appetite for winning now, or New Orleans where you've worked before and is I think a franchise with a better chance of winning a Super Bowl than the Cowboys. Maybe a chance to find your next quarterback here over the next offseason or two. I think those opportunities could be more attractive at this point. So hopefully, he gets a chance to talk with those teams and we'll hear more from Mike, reflecting on his time with the Cowboys. It'd be a hell of a book.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, here we are now hoping that the Cowboys can find somebody better and believing, that they'll probably go with somebody they're familiar with or is an old retread, maybe probably not somebody that's going to get us that excited. What we do know is that they don't have a chance to talk with these coaches that are still active in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's, and that's goes back again to what Eric's talking about, their indecisiveness. They might already
deliberately indecisive.
Yeah, they might have
because they don't want Ben Johnson.
Yeah,
they don't even care.
But there's just no vision. There's no vision. There's no plan. I don't know that there ever has been. I mean, I don't know the last time that there was. Maybe it was back when they needed to get AT&T Stadium built, and Jerry realized, man, I got to get somebody actually that can turn this around and knows what the hell they're doing, and that's let me hire Bill Parcells. And then what did Bill Parcells do? Brian, you were there. You guys were able to finally put together some good drafts. 2005 built a foundation for a team that then could go ahead and contend for the next 10 years. That's really what happened there. And then ever since then, it's like, we'll give Jason Garrett, who's an average as hell head coach. Nobody else wanted him after he was fired. He was one and done with the Giants, orchestrated one of the worst offenses in the history of the NFL as an OC that you thought was a boy genius offensive wonder. He's gone. Then you bring in Mike. Mike brought some stability. But this is, the circus/clown show, whatever you want to call it, it is very, very difficult to manage and deal with as a head coach. And then if you want to look at, the offensive coordinator, maybe that'll get you excited. When's the last time Cowboy fans, you've been happy with an offensive coordinator the Cowboys have hired? It was Kellen Moore. It was Scott Linehan. It was Bill Callahan, Garrett, Mo Carthon, Bruce Coslett, Jack Riley, Ernie Zampese. Do we need to go back to Norv Turner in the 90s? This team's never going to bring in somebody that's like forward thinking. They've got to go ahead and deal with somebody that's comfortable. They got to accidentally fall into it. You hit that on the head there, Gavin. Like they've fallen into Romo, they fell into Dak. That's the one thing where, man, I think it's totally crazy and asinine to think about Jason Witten going from head coach in high school football to head coach of an NFL team. But maybe that's the crazy psycho move that I'm not going to respect and the rest of the National Football League shouldn't respect. But can you accidentally fall into then? Maybe he is a great head coach.
Jason Witten doesn't want to be over his skis again.
Maybe he does.
He doesn't want to do something he's not prepared for. He doesn't want to get thrusted and skip the line into another job. He's done that once.
Man, but Kellen Moore sure ain't doing it for you, right? Maybe they just elevate Mike Zimmer. Maybe that's an answer for you. You can keep continuity on defense. Maybe then Zim can go out and bring in an offensive coordinator, assuming they let him. Do they let the head coach do the hiring? That's always a question mark here as well.
Yeah, see, that's why I feel like that maybe, and I think you very well put the whole situation with Jason Witten, but then also they could help him with the hiring of the staff. Then all of a sudden you do see Matt Eberflus show up. You see Mark Colombo show up again. You see Leon Lett come back. Yeah. You see George Edwards come back. You see
all of a sudden brought us back in the scouting department.
No, that ain't going to happen at all. But, like I said, I think there's guys that, like, if you don't like Witten, I think Gruden's in play here. I really do. I think there's a certain level. I called out to North Carolina, asked Mike Lombardi. I go, does this change anything that you guys are thinking about, with the Cowboy Open? He says, not at all. So I would eliminate what's going on out there, with Bill Belichick coming back. But I think you have to be open to the maybe the crazy side of this thing. Maybe it is going to be a very much a what we've like to talk about, the Al Davis type of approach where, wow, Lane Kiffin just got this job, and that kind of a coach. And maybe it turns into where, it's guys they're familiar with, but they bring guys back that understand how the operation works. John Kitna coming back, guys like if you hired Kellen Moore, there goes, there's Doug Nussmeier back in the picture, a fan favorite of
Dak. That'd make your quarterback happy.
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's make him happy.
I think that's I think the Ben Johnsons and the Aaron Glenns of the world and stuff like that, probably not for here, but somewhere else, surely. That's going to be a head coach at some of these other stops.
And I still send all that back through the filter of no matter who your coach is, you could go find Shanahan plus Walsh plus Jimmy Johnson plus Newt Rockne, put all their brains into one, have the perfect coach. You still have Dak Prescott as your quarterback. You still don't have a good offensive line. You still have one good wide receiver and an average tight end. You don't have a running back. Like, you have to nail so many personnel things.
And those aren't like necessarily the end of the world problems, because we can see a Commanders roster go from garbage to pretty dang awesome playoff round 2 in one season if you have a front office willing to make it happen. The biggest problem is that you have all those holes and you don't have any avenues other than the draft to fill them.
Well, it looks like
so that's a disaster.
To your point, they have a quarterback.
Yeah, the Commanders hit on their quarterback. Yeah. That's a huge part of it. And you're right. With Dak, I don't know that any of us know what version we're getting. I think we've all, as Cowboy fans, you want Dak to succeed and be awesome. But even it goes back to Brian, you've been telling us for years. Jerry had questions. Is this our guy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
See,
you shouldn't. How much do you need to see before you make the decision? This is our guy.
That's why today is gloom. We can look to the doom that's coming, but today is wonderful, man. I'm glad they didn't wait another 10 years. They didn't do the Jason Garrett thing. They at least drew a line in the sand. Super haphazardly, indecisive, late. All of that.
I don't think they did anything.
The ultimate conclusion, I'm just glad that we're getting something different here.
But yeah, I don't think that they deserve the credit here. I think Mike made the decision for them.
Well, to an extent, yes, but they obviously drew their line in the sand of like, hey, if you want to be back, it's going to be on these qualifiers. Yeah. And so they helped to make that decision. I can't
give them credit for saying, "Oh, we want to move on here," when they didn't. They didn't want to move on.
Well, maybe it's another example of them falling into something cool, but the idea that we're looking for something new now is really awesome.
Well, see, if you were a Cowboy fan, would you feel even better about the situation if you were looking for a coach and trying to find the quarterback?
Yes, there's no doubt.
There's no doubt. They could have got to, this thing had a chance before the football season to like, okay, let's just let this thing ride.
Yeah.
If we can, we'll replace the quarterback and replace the head coach.
But that would take foresight and being decisive, a plan.
Yeah. Which they don't have.
Well, because they don't have an actual football guy doing the things. We talked about it last week. It's just, who's the last guy Jerry heard from? He's just outsourcing everything. So it's hard to have like a true definitive plan, because that can change by the second, by the phone call, by the text. And that's obviously the biggest problem.
Well, you're probably not going with my gut on anything here, but I agree with the 469. He says, how much you want to bet Mike Zimmer is going to be the next head coach?
It could be.
I just feel like that's the perfect bridge to get through 2025 that's going to be worse than 2024, and give yourself maybe a chance to hire a coach with a clean slate.
I tell you what, though, I think Mike Zimmer is tired.
Yeah, I don't think he's just taking a willy-nilly crappy one-year deal.
Did a pretty good job in the second half.
He absolutely did. He absolutely did, but I just wonder if he wants to really go through another 1 year like you're talking about. Okay, Mike, we'll bring you along, and when the team goes 5-12, then we'll fire you and we'll go get a real guy, kind of a thing. So I don't know if Mike wants to go through that again. I haven't talked to Mike about that.
Yeah,
but I do think he was wore down at the end. If he's not having the stomach to come back and be a defensive coordinator. Or do you think you want him coming back as the head coach? If he's thinking about not even coming back as a DC, I don't know if I'd want to.
I've got to handle more responsibility, more crap.
Got to deal with Broad is talking bad about me.
Not.
And no.
Well, he came back to do this.
Yeah, I think he came back
on
as
a 1 year.
Yeah, I think he came back as a favor to Jerry and Steven. I really do. I think that and he talks about his son who he lost. And who was a coach and all that. And, but there's a side of me that just believes that, like, this was a tough year on him. Mm-hmm. And I just wonder if he doesn't have the stomach to to come back as a DC with somebody different, will he want to be the head coach?
You don't think there's a chance he's negotiating saying that stuff?
I
don't know.
No. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just, McCarthy made a decision. Mike Zimmer has the same ability to do that right now himself.
Well, the only positive I can make out of this, guys, is I do believe I uttered last week, if Mike's not back, another bet payoff, which puts me at 5.
Yeah.
Which is convenient because on Radio Row in New Orleans, there are 5 shows to do.
Yeah, I got 3.
Yeah. Okay.
Well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do a payoff a day on Radio Row. How about that, boys?
I love this.
How about that?
This is making the Super Bowl week way more
We're going to have to
spicy.
sneak in
I
all
don't know
sorts of
about that.
crazy contraband for you to be able to pull off these stunts.
Hey,
Let's go.
I'm a man of my word. I may not have paid off these bets in a timely fashion, but it has been hanging over me. So it will get done at Radio Row
How
here
Jerry of you.
in a couple of weeks.